Hi, students. Welcome to another episode of Women of FHSS. Joining us today, we have Karissa Lemme. Karissa, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Karissa, I thought that maybe we would get started by you telling us a little bit about yourself and your current role.
Yes, hi. I am Karissa Lemme. I My current role is I'm a community voice advocacy coordinator for a nonprofit called QPI, the Quality Parenting Initiative. And I came into this role as a foster parent. So I was a foster parent and I was just a foster parent advocate. And I just kind of organically fell into this role of helping support other foster parents and be an advocate for them. I've been married for almost 14 years to my husband, met in Provo. We have three daughters, 11, 7, and 2, and just kind of a revolving door of foster kiddos coming in and out.
Wow, that's amazing. So, what was your undergraduate experience? Were you at BYU before?
Yes, so my undergrad is in counseling, psychology, and special education, and my goal was to be a special ed teacher, which I did. I graduated in 2007, and I taught special ed in Provo or actually in Orem for 2 years, and then we moved out to California, and I taught special ed here for a year, and then kind of put a career on hold to start a family.
Wonderful. Well, I was hoping we could maybe talk a little bit about your journey because it sounds to me like you have a lot of really incredible experience and you have a family and you've moved into this new life. And so I was hoping that maybe you could share with us some of the reasons why you've pursued a career and how you got from the special education arena to staying at home with your family to now what you're doing.
Yeah, it's definitely, I feel like my career pursued me more than I pursued it. But I feel like things just happened organically. So, my husband and I had always wanted to be foster parents. Actually, when I taught in Utah, I taught kindergarten. There was a kiddo, and there was an issue that I had to like file a claim with CPS and appear in court, and it was kind of traumatic, but it was it left an imprint in my life. And I thought, when the time comes and when I feel like my family is ready to take this on, I want to be a foster parent. And so we moved here to California. We were ready to start our family after being married for a couple of years. We had trouble conceiving, and it was really heartbreaking, and it was a huge trial. And we did get pregnant, but we miscarried, and then we got pregnant again. And so we'd realized like this is going to be a hard thing for us. And so we thought, well, like, let's turn to adoption. And then I thought, oh, I always wanted to be a foster parent. Can we, like, let's do that? Because, if kids are in foster care, when they're become adoptable, it's free. With the private adoptions, thousands and thousands of dollars. And so we'd kind of struggled with infertility issues, and then luckily brought two babies into the world naturally, and then decided to pursue foster care. I was not working at this time, and we signed up to be foster parents, and it was just kind of a wild ride. And what happened, which is what I really did not expect, was that I really built connections with the parents of these kids, and it really kind of shifted our focus from adoption to wanting to be mentors to these families, because we realize that the kiddos, if they can and if it's safe, they should be with their birth families and with their parents. And so I'd started doing a lot of this advocacy work in my county and talking other foster parents into, kind of like switching their role from just, taking in the kiddo to mentoring their parents and to really facilitating a good relationship. And when you look at the data, a lot of kids in foster care come from parents who were also raised in the foster care system. And it's just like this cycle that is constantly repeating itself. And so if I think of myself when I had a baby, I have like my church family, I have my neighborhood, I have my family, I have like a husband who could take paternity leave. Like I have all this huge supportive village of people that helped me bring a child like into the world. And a lot of people don't have that. And it was really unfortunate. And when I kind of shifted and saw things from that perspective, it really kind of lit a fire under me to be able to share like the perspective with others. And so in my advocacy work, I was invited to speak at a few conferences, just the importance of birth and foster parent relationships. And I was invited to like to Seattle to a conference. And then when COVID hit, I was invited to speak at several virtual conferences, which was a really neat opportunity. I mean, this COVID was like a blessing in disguise for me, because before I would not have been able to travel, you know, to all these speaking engagements, but Zoom and just like a virtual platform created this whole, like a window was opened for me to be able to do this. And so after speaking at certain conferences, I just was approached by the Quality Parenting Initiative, who's a nonprofit that I've loved, you know, doing volunteer work for, and they just said, "Hey, do you want to come on board as like a staff member and, you know, have this role?" They created like this role for me, a community voice advocacy coordinator, and they're like, "We need someone to be able to like coordinate this advocacy work among foster parents. Do you think you want to do that?" And I was like, yes, yes, I do. And so it wasn't something I went to college for necessarily, but it was just kind of fell into my lap, kind of based on the direction my life, you know, the turn that it took, and the experiences that we had. So it's really been quite a fun ride.
Wow, that's amazing. I feel like when I'm sitting with students and I'm talking to them about what post graduation can look like for them, I feel like sometimes we approach the conversation very narrowly, right? Like there are these side, uh, just kind of this idea of what that's going to look like, and it sounds to me like you didn't necessarily intend on getting into this field, but your life was able to lead you there because there was something that you were really passionate about, you really cared about, and you love your foster children, and you loved being able to be a part of that mentoring experience with their birth parents. And that's what really led you down this way. Would you ever have thought, if you were talking to your younger self, that this was something that was even a possibility for you?
No, and I'm like a very type A person. Like I had a 5-year plan, I had a 10-year plan, you know what I mean? Like things were really always planned. And this was never, like all great things are, never in the plan.
Wow. And talk a little bit about like how your degree maybe prepared you for the role that you're in now, because I feel like there are still probably some things that you were able to take away and then added your life experience to that, and now it's like, okay, well, now I'm in this professional role. Do you see any connections there? Is that a stretch?
No, there's so much overlap. So I taught special ed, and so many of the kids that come into foster care are delayed educationally and delayed in other ways. And so having that background and having that experience really helped me be able to kind of get the resources that they needed. I'm really pretty well versed in education law, and I'm pretty well versed in a lot of the like speech therapy, behavioral therapy, occupational therapy, because of my role as a teacher. And then also I was facilitating and leading IEP meetings, individual education plan meetings. And that has helped me tons in my current job. I'm constantly facilitating meetings, and I'm bringing people together, and I'm able to lead meetings in the way that I learned as a teacher. I just kind of do it a little differently now.
That's so amazing. One of the things that I just keep thinking about is you're kind of talking about your journey and like how you were able to be prepared for what you're doing now, is this idea of, lifting where you stand, I guess, and just being really, really good at what you're doing. So even in your role as like a mother, you were gaining some really incredible skills too. I know that we have a lot of students that are coming back to school. Can you talk about this idea of how motherhood has prepared you for what you're doing right now as well?
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the main things that helped me connect to other birth mothers. And that was really my relationship as a mother, my role as a mother, really helped me connect to the mothers of the kids who came into my care. And like the first kiddos that came into my care, the little girl, she was 14 months old, and I'll call her baby M because I don't want to say her name, but anyway, so M came into my care, and she kind of was like toddling around, but not like fully confidently walking. But I thought like, oh, okay, she's just starting to walk. And when I went to the visitation center a couple days later to drop her off with her mom, it was my first time meeting her mom, and I sat M down, and she just kind of like slowly toddled to her mom, and her mom was like, "Oh my gosh, she's walking." And I thought, oh, she didn't know she was walking. She didn't know she was taking steps. She didn't know, like, we never got it on video. We never took pictures. We never celebrated. We didn't do like the big giant, hurrah situation that we've done for all of our kids that have learned to walk. We miss that moment completely. And as a mother, connecting with another mother, I was just crushed knowing that like I missed that moment for her, and that she had missed that moment. And yeah, that relationship is one of the biggest things that helps me in this role, because it's all about relationships and it's all about connecting.
And how wonderful it was that you were able to realize that, and then be able to still connect with that mom, and recognize too, in a very empathetic way, what can I do to help these moms not miss out on these really crucial parts of their children's lives. That's really beautiful of you to recognize that. So what are some things that you've had to grapple with, whether professionally or personally, at each stage in your career journey?
I feel like I know the term imposter syndrome is being thrown around a lot. And that is something that I struggled with so much, because at this organization, I'm put in front of hundreds of people to like share experiences. And I'm not a social worker, and I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not like a professional in the child welfare world, but my life experience is what qualifies me for the position that I hold. And that was really hard to come to terms with. And I really, at the beginning, felt like I didn't belong. Like I felt like I was surrounded by all these powerhouse people who like have masters and doctorates and all of these degrees and all of these letters after their name. And I thought like, I don't fit in here at all. And I have nothing to offer these people. But I've really been able to overcome that with the fact that real lived experience is so important, and that perspective is so necessary in making these big changes. And I've been able to use that angle to pull in also birth parents to the table to help change policy and change legislation. And I've been able to pull like former youth and foster care to the table, because I've heard the saying, nothing about me without me. Like if decisions are being made about these people, they need to be in the room and they need to be sharing their perspective. And so getting over that, I guess, imposter syndrome, and helping other people realize like their importance and how much their voice matters has really helped a lot. And then also, there isn't imposter syndrome, I feel like, isn't such a terrible thing. Like it continually makes me want to be better and want to learn more and want to strive for greatness. And so, but yes, that's been a huge personal hurdle for me.
Do you feel like you still face it often, or do you feel like it's less so?
I feel like I face it just as often, but I'm dealing with it from a healthier perspective.
Mm, I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. You've been able to grow into your strength as a mechanism for kind of overcoming or facing it, right? So maybe
Right.
not necessarily overcoming, but at least facing it. That's really beautiful. So, kind of taking a step out of into this other space, I was wondering if you could talk to us about mentorship.
Mhm.
How did you get to where you are? Who have your mentors been? Did you have to be proactive in finding them? Was it a natural thing for you? Tell us a little bit about mentorship.
So, um, the we didn't really have like a hierarchical like order at my job. So I'll say my boss, but she hates that. So she's got like a very big personality, and at the beginning, I thought like, oh my gosh, she hates me, or she would just like kind of take over conversations that I was starting and then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing it right. I don't know what I'm doing. And immediately another coworker kind of saw this happening and saw that it was really getting to me, and she had reached out to me and was just like, I'm just going to take you under my wing. And she's a former director of a child welfare um, of a county, of a child welfare office. And she's just, it's been amazing. Like she's just constantly like filling me in on little things. And because I don't have that professional background in child welfare, she'll just, like we'll be in a big meeting and someone will like spout off all these acronyms and she'll like text me the acronyms and the names of them. And it really helps a ton because I am the only person or one of the only people on the team um, with just my life experience and not an educational background in this field. It's been such an immense help to have her kind of take me under my wing or take me under her wing and just really break things down for me and explain things so that I can better contribute to conversations.
I think that's amazing that there's somebody who's willing. Sometimes I feel like in the workforce you have people who don't want to necessarily build others as they build themselves, right? It's really competitive. And as we talk about equality and equity in the workplace, I think it's so valuable when there are people that can latch on and just say, I'm bringing you with me.
Yeah,
right?
because
like,
ultimately
together.
Yeah, when you have that teamwork and when you have those connections, you reach your goals better and you're able to, reach the potential even better when you're working as a team and not all against each other. I really love that about my team, is that we're all in it together, and we only look as good as the most inexperienced or slowest or least intelligent teammate, and so we're always trying to bring people up and make sure that their voice is heard and that they're kind of caught up and understand really what's going on so that they can better contribute to the greater goal.
That's so great. Can you talk to me a little bit about mentorship in your home? So for example, one thing that I like to talk to my working moms about is the support that they have either from their community or in their home in terms of how that's helping you to meet your career pursuits and goals.
So I used to be like really terrified, not terrified. I guess there's a stigma of, putting your child in daycare and people are like, oh, well, that person is raising your child. And I thought that too. Like, I don't want someone else raising my child. But like, I have school age kids and they have teachers, and I don't think of their teachers as raising my children. So like, I'm not sure what the difference is. And it's really helped me overcome, like, just seeing that, having older kids and seeing that perspective has helped me overcome, that stigma. And I've really embraced people helping and people, stepping up. And I have like an amazingly supportive community in my church family, and there's a ton of working moms in my church family, and we all just kind of like lift each other up and help out when needed. And it's been incredible. And I'm not afraid to, hire a house cleaner if I need to, and I'm not afraid to hire a landscaper if I need someone to mow my lawn, and it really helps bringing like everyone and their talents together, and it helps me, just be an overall better person. I was never the mother that, and this may sound terrible, but I was never the mother that would like sit on the floor with my child and like play a board game for like 2 hours. Like that wasn't something that I did as a mom, and that doesn't make me a bad mom, and that doesn't make the moms doing that a good mom necessarily. But when my daughter went to childcare, her childcare provider sent me a video of she was just sitting on the floor with my daughter reading a book, and they were like blowing bubbles together for a really long time. And I was like, man, this video was going on for a really long time. And then at the very beginning I thought, yeah, I should be the one sitting on the floor with her. I should be the one blowing bubbles with her, and I should be the one, and then I thought, Karissa, like you had that chance and you didn't do that stuff. Like that isn't my specialty. That's not my skill. Like I don't have the patience or like the wherewithal to be able to do that. But she does. And how lucky am I that she's doing that with my kid? And how lucky am I that I have her like in my corner to do that? Because if she was here and I'm working, I mean, she would just be in front of a screen. And, that's an option that some people have to utilize. And I'm grateful that there are people around me that have different talents to contribute to just kind of like make our household work.
That's such a beautiful mindset and a very personal one for me because I struggle with that too. I think it's really easy to get into imposter syndrome as moms
Yes.
about I'm not doing this right. It's supposed to look like this, and so I'm really grateful that you shared that mindset because I know that individually I'm feeling like, oh, wow, I have been stuck there, especially when it comes to this idea of, oh, here's this other person raising my child, right? I think that is a very easy thing to think about as a working mom, and overcoming kind of this mom guilt that we just happen to carry with us all the time
Right.
because we're stuck in that mindset.
No,
So
I have not gotten over that. That's for sure to say. Like, it's still there, and it's a work in progress. I feel like also it's really important that, when I started work, I really had to sit down with my husband, and we really had to like divide some things up a little more evenly throughout like the house. And he sometimes has to take the kids to school if I have a meeting, or he's constantly he's taken over like the kitchen and like things like that. And so it's really helpful to have that conversation. And people are always telling me like, oh my gosh, you're so lucky to have him, you're so lucky to have a hands-on dad. And I thought, well, yes, you're right, I am lucky, but like when I was dating, I looked for these qualities in a person, and it took a while, and it took a lot of a lot of people to find this person. And so it's something that I purposefully was seeking out when I was looking for a future, spouse.
that's amazing. Can you tell us a little bit about that partnership too? You talked about, being able to sit down and have conversations about divvying out responsibilities, and how has that gone as you've considered your career as well?
Yeah, so I feel like with COVID, we've been really lucky in a sense that he's not home now, but he works from home and I work from home, and we share an office. And so the kids are at school or childcare, and my goodness, we're spending so much time together, not necessarily conversing with each other, but in the same room. And like I have this whiteboard that I'll like write messages on, and like if he's on a call or something. But yeah, it's given us lots more time together, and we've been able to be intentional about the time and what we share. Or and so like he'll send me a text saying like, we really need to have like a budget meeting. When can we do this? And we like schedule a time, and this is what we're going to talk about. It kind of feels like a staff meeting. Like we have an agenda and someone takes notes. Not really that formal, but like that's what you have to do sometimes when you're kind of a busy working family, is schedule those times to have those important conversations. And of course, like if he's sick, or if he's, having a hard time, I'll do the dishes. It's not like this is your job and this is your chore. We're always understanding of each other. But it was really important to me before I accepted this job to make sure that we could still make our household run functionally, and that things would be divided pretty evenly.
And it sounds to me like this isn't just something that's because of your circumstances right now. It sounds to me like you've had this relationship for a while. So even when you weren't working, you still had to talk with one another and partner with one another to figure out different things in your household. And that COVID was just, a perfect example of like, this is how you make a dual career family work as well. Do you have anything to say about, how this relationship has just kind of built over time, or anything to say about, maybe some of our students that are considering companionship and partners?
I feel like there's so much to be said about, like dating for a long time and like having a longer courtship. It really, and making sure that you're seeing seeing them through really hard times and making sure you see, what they look like in the midst of trials, because a lot of times, those blinders are on, or you've got those rose-colored glasses, and you're only seeing the great and amazing things. And we knew each other for 2 years before we had started dating, and we knew each other as friends for a really long time beforehand, and it really helped because I felt like we really knew who each other were before we had entered into a relationship, and it really it really helps seeing them through really difficult times. We've had much more difficult times since dating with like fertility issues, and foster care just throws a huge wrench in a well-oiled machine, because it's just full of emotion and unpredictability and just kind of like crazy drama. But I knew that we would be up to the task because of previous trials that we had experienced together and previous trials that I had seen him go through before we were even dating. And so it was really helpful to know that how he like handles things under pressure. And I'm surprised that he still married me, seeing how I handle things under pressure. But I mean, I feel like we even each other out. He's like very even keeled, and I'm just kind of all over the place. But we meet each other where we need to, and it's not to say that things are perfect, but we have a pretty good relationship.
Thank you. And thank you for talking about that. I know it wasn't part of our original list of questions. So
It's
I
fine.
appreciate you being so vulnerable to that. Kind of talking a little bit more about your job and your career, what are some ways that your job or career has come easy for you? And what are some ways that it's been challenging?
I feel like I've always loved speaking, and I've always loved, like if I have to give a talk at church, or if I mean, obviously I was a teacher, and so I like standing in front of groups and sharing, thoughts or lessons or whatever. And so that part has come really easily to me because this job presents a lot of opportunities to speak to big groups of people, and it's something that is comfortable for me, something that I'm familiar with, and I'm kind of like, in my zone in that area. Um, some barriers are, I feel like I have like quite a loud personality, and maybe that can be off-putting to people. I'm very opinionated, and I'm not everybody's cup of tea necessarily. And what's really helped me overcome that is knowing that like there's never going to be any way to please every single person. And as long as I'm doing my job and getting the things done that I need to get done, and as long as I'm really rooting for these people that I'm advocating for, then I can sleep soundly at night if some people think that maybe I'm a little too annoying or a little too loud.
That's helpful for me too, because I feel that I possess that very same characteristic. So maybe there are other students listening to this that resonates with as well. So,
Okay.
and I think that that's really hard sometimes, right? Because I grew up a very people pleasing person. And so
Yes.
coming to grips with that is very helpful.
It's been very difficult, and actually one of my professors at BYU really helped me overcome that. And she really helped mentor. Speaking of mentorship, she really helped mentor me and like highlight the importance of not needing to fit into a box. Like you can be your own person and bring so much more perspective to the table than like a little cookie cutter person.
Yeah, I think that that's really, and valuing that even in that cookie cutter sphere, right, that's an okay place to be too.
Totally.
It's just not your place.
Hmm.
You
Totally.
exist outside of that mold, and being in the mold isn't a bad thing either. You can
Yep.
be in that mold and still achieve what needs to be achieved.
Yeah,
But
there's a place for everybody.
exactly. I wanted to actually talk to you a little bit about networking,
Hmm.
because maybe there's some value in that characteristic as you've been networking with somebody and networking with different groups of people. How important is networking for you? How have you done it? And did you obtain this earlier in your life, or is this something you've had to develop over time?
I think it's something that I obtained pretty early. I'm never really afraid to like walk up to people and ask anything. And now, especially in the world of Zoom, I'm constantly sliding into people's chats like, hey, can we have a meeting? This is what I do. This is me. I can, help you, or you can help me. And I feel like it's a lot less scary when you're, in Zoom, and sometimes people don't respond to me, and I'm not really hurt by that. I think to myself, they didn't see my chat, rather than they saw my chat and were like, ew. I'm like, oh, they just didn't see it.
That's a good perspective to have.
And so that's been a super awesome tool to be able to like sort of slide into their DMs and connect that way. But yeah, it's so important. We're constantly having hosting webinars and we want people with real life experience to speak on panels and to share their experience. I just came off a call with the representatives from the California Department of Social Services, and we really wanted them to hear from foster parents, and we really wanted them to hear their experiences. And so my networking, helped me find foster parents to be able to speak on these panels. And yeah, it's super important because you can get a lot done with the right people.
That's so great. So what would you say to somebody who's a little bit more shy when it comes to networking? Where do they start?
I feel like if you're shy, even just written is probably best. Like just shooting people an email and just introducing yourself that way. Sometimes text messages are easier than phone calls, and phone calls are easier than walking up to someone at a conference in person. But constantly, yeah, I'm always sliding into people's inboxes.
And what should be the expectation that you would say for people who are starting to network? Should they attach themselves to an outcome? What should that look like?
I feel like zero. I don't ever have any expectations, because then when nothing pans out, which is a big percentage of the time, I don't feel like a failure, and it doesn't like break me down to a point where I'm like, oh, this isn't working, I'm never going to do this again. I just keep going and send on to the next person. I mean, there's not just one person that's going to like take your career to the next level. There's several different people, and the more you try, the more you succeed.
I love it. Thank you so much for that. Well, Karissa, as we're kind of wrapping up our conversation, is there anything else that you would want to share with our students that will empower them to pursue whatever it is that they choose post-graduation, whether or not it's fulfilling grad school or staying at home with their children, or staying at home, part-time or full-time employment opportunities?
I feel like just be true to yourself, and that's enough. You don't have to explain it to your parents. You don't have to explain it to, other people around you. You don't have to explain it to the alumni that you graduated with. Just be true to yourself, and a path will be carved out for you. That's not to say it doesn't take hard work or grit or lots of prayer, but just making sure that you are true to yourself.
Thank you. Again, Karissa, thank you so much for being so open and vulnerable about all of these incredible experiences that have led to people inviting you. That's one thing I love about your story, is that you've been invited. Like everything that it is that you've done, all the experiences that you've had, your education, your motherhood, your struggles with infertility, your fostering these incredible and beautiful children, like everything that you've done has led to you being qualified and for you to be invited. And so thank you so much for sharing your time and your talent and your wisdom with our students.
Thanks for the opportunity, Lindsay. I appreciate it.